The Great Unboxing. Chapter 1. The Reckoning. I should have known we were in trouble when Marcus opened the fourth box labeled Kitchen, Misc. And pulled out a fondue set. "We don't even like fondue," he said, holding up the avocado green monstrosity like it was evidence in a murder trial. "Your mother gave us that," I reminded him. "In 2003. It seemed rude not to keep it." He stared at me with the kind of look that suggested he was reconsidering our entire 22-year marriage. "Claire. We have used this exactly 0 times. We talked about using it for your 40th. That was 8 years ago. Welcome to our new reality. 2 people, 1 4-bedroom house worth of accumulated nonsense. And a 950-square-foot condo waiting for us across town like a tiny, judgmental landlord." The downsizing had seemed like such a mature decision when we'd made it 6 months ago. The kids were gone. Mia doing something incomprehensible with blockchain in Austin. And Jake teaching English in Vietnam while finding himself. Translation. Dating his way through Southeast Asia. The house felt cavernous. The yard felt accusatory. Our knees hurt when we used the stairs. "Think of all the money we'll save," Marcus had said, scrolling through condo listings on his iPad. "Think of the freedom." I'd agreed, picturing us jet setting to Tuscany or Bali, or literally anywhere that wasn't our living room, watching reruns of British baking shows. That was before we'd opened the first box in the basement. Or the second. Or the 73rd. "I'm calling it," Marcus announced, setting down the fondue set with unusual gentleness. "We have a problem." "We're just thorough collectors," I said weakly. "Claire, I just found 3 fondue forks in this box. We also have that other fondue set upstairs. The electric one we got as a wedding gift. Which means we own 2 fondue sets and have never fondued." That's not a verb. It should be. It would describe our level of dysfunction perfectly. I looked around our basement, which resembled less of a storage space and more of an archaeological dig site, documenting the buying habits of 2 idiots with disposable income and no impulse control. There were boxes stacked on boxes, furniture draped in sheets like ghosts of purchases past, and at least 4 artificial Christmas trees in various states of disassembly. "Okay," I admitted. "We might have a slight hoarding situation." "Slight? Moderate to severe." Marcus ran his hands through his graying hair, which only made him look more distinguished, which was frankly unfair. When I was stressed, I looked like a potato that had been left in the back of the pantry too long. "The moving truck comes in 3 weeks," he said. "I'm aware. We need to get rid of, conservatively, 80% of this stuff. That seems extreme." "Claire." He gestured broadly at our basement kingdom of crap. "We have 17 throw pillows. In the basement. That's not counting the ones actually on furniture." He had a point. "Okay," I said, squaring my shoulders. "We can do this. We're adults. Competent, decisive adults who can make rational choices about material possessions." "Exactly. We'll be ruthless." "Ruthless," he agreed. We stared at each other for a moment, then simultaneously looked at the fondue set. "We should probably keep that," I said. "You know, just in case." Marcus laughed, which turned into a slightly hysterical giggle, which turned into both of us sitting on a rolled-up carpet laughing until we cried. This was going to be harder than we thought. Chapter 2. The Archive. The next morning, fortified by coffee and denial, we made a plan. "We'll go room by room," Marcus said, consulting the spreadsheet he'd created. Because of course he'd created a spreadsheet. The man once made a Gantt chart for painting the garage. "Basement first?" I suggested. "Basement first," he confirmed. "Get the worst over with." We descended the stairs like explorers entering an unknown tomb. Which wasn't far from the truth. I honestly couldn't remember the last time I'd been in the back corner behind the old exercise equipment. Marcus pulled the chain on the overhead bulb, and we gasped in unison. "Is that?" I began. "A complete set of 1970s Samsonite luggage," Marcus finished. "In burnt orange." It was beautiful in the way that truly hideous things sometimes are. Bold, unapologetic, and absolutely certain of its own aesthetic value. The set was lined up like soldiers. A train case, 2 suitcases, and a massive trunk that could probably fit a small person. "Where did this even come from?" I asked. Marcus was already kneeling beside it, his accountant brain clearly calculating potential value. "Estate sale, maybe? Your aunt's house clearance?" Aunt Dottie. The memory surfaced like a breaching whale. When she moved into assisted living. She said there were a few items she wanted us to have. This is not a few items. This is a complete mid-century traveling collection. He opened the train case, and we both leaned in. Inside, nestled in fitted compartments like jewelry, was an array of vintage grooming items. A silver-backed brush and mirror set, a leather manicure kit, glass bottles with atomizers, and, inexplicably, a pristine portable typewriter. "Okay, this is actually cool," I admitted. "This is valuable," Marcus corrected, pulling out his phone. I heard the telltale camera click as he started photographing everything. "What are you doing?" "Research. These vintage luggage sets go for serious money if they're in good condition. And this one looks like it's never been used." I picked up the hairbrush, its bristles still perfect. Its silverback engraved with an ornate D for Dorothy. My aunt had been a complicated woman. Elegant, particular, and slightly terrifying at family gatherings. She'd never married, traveled extensively for her work as a textile buyer, and had opinions about everything from the correct way to iron a sheet to the moral failings of anyone who didn't appreciate a proper Wedgwood pattern. "She would have loved this," I said softly. "Going to someone who appreciated it." Marcus looked up from his phone. "Are you getting sentimental about luggage?" "I'm getting sentimental about Aunt Dottie." "You were terrified of Aunt Dottie." "I was respectful of Aunt Dottie." "There's a difference." I set down the brush carefully. She was amazing, in her own way. She lived in 6 different countries. She spoke 4 languages. She once told my mother that suburbia was a tomb for the imagination. And yet she left you fondue sets. That was your mother. Right. Your aunt left you luggage you never used. I straightened up, defensive. We were going to use it. We talked about taking that trip to. Don't. Marcus warned. Don't start listing all the trips we were going to take. But it was too late. They were flooding back. Prague. The Amalfi Coast. That train journey through Scotland. The Northern Lights in Iceland. The safari in Tanzania. All the adventures we'd filed under, someday, while we paid mortgages and college tuitions, and slowly filled our house with things we didn't need. That's it, I said suddenly. What's it? We're selling all of this stuff. Every bit of it. And we're using the money for the trips. Marcus raised an eyebrow. All of it? Well, not the family stuff. But all this. I gestured around the basement. All these things we bought or inherited or accumulated, because we thought we should want them. We're converting it all into experiences. That's very Marie Kondo of you. Marie Kondo is a wise woman. Does the fondue set spark joy? The fondue set sparks guilt, which is not the same thing. I pulled out my own phone. I'm looking up how to sell vintage items. Marcus grinned. It was the same grin he'd had when we decided to quit our corporate jobs and start a small bookkeeping firm from home 20 years ago. The grin that meant we were about to do something slightly crazy but possibly brilliant. You know what? He said. I'm in. But we need rules. Rules? We can't get emotionally attached. We can't start keeping things, just because. And we have to actually use the money for travel, not put it in savings or spend it on more stuff. Agreed. I stuck out my hand. Partners in downsizing? He shook it. Partners in downsizing. We had no idea what we were getting into. Chapter 3. Down the rabbit hole. It turns out that selling vintage items is less, post it online and watch the money roll in, and more, accidentally become amateur historians while arguing with strangers on the internet about the exact shade of avocado green that was popular in 1972. This guy says our fondue set is harvest gold, not avocado. Marcus reported from his laptop 3 days later. It's clearly avocado. He's sent me a color chart. Tell him we're not interested in his pedantic color theories. He's offering $80. Tell him his color theories are fascinating and we appreciate his expertise. We were sitting at our dining room table, which had disappeared under a layer of vintage items, pricing guides, and approximately 47 browser tabs about selling collectibles. It turned out that Aunt Dottie's luggage was just the tip of the iceberg. In the past 72 hours, we'd unearthed a complete set of Pyrex mixing bowls in a pattern called butterprint. The internet lost its mind over these, apparently. 17 vintage board games, including an unopened 1982 Trivial Pursuit. A collection of mid-century modern barware that made Marcus weep with joy. 43 vinyl records, none of which we could play because we donated our record player in 2009. A set of 1960s McCoy pottery vases. And, inexplicably, a vintage Polaroid camera with 12 packs of expired film. Where did all of this come from? I wondered for the dozenth time. I think we might be kleptomaniacs who exclusively steal from estate sales, Marcus suggested. I was photographing the Pyrex bowls, trying to get the lighting right. The online selling groups were very particular about photo quality. I'd already been roasted by someone named Vintage Vicky 47 for using inadequate natural light on my barware pictures. Got it, Marcus announced. The luggage set. Complete Samsonite silhouette series in burnt orange, circa 1972. Comparable sets are going for $400 to $600. I nearly dropped my phone. Dollars? No, Claire, pesos. Yes, dollars. For luggage? For vintage luggage in pristine condition. Apparently, there's a whole community of mid-century modern enthusiasts who collect this stuff. I leaned over to look at his screen. Sure enough, there were hundreds of listings for vintage luggage, many with prices that made me question whether we'd been living in an alternate universe where people still used suitcases from the Nixon administration. How much is all of this worth? I asked. Marcus pulled up his spreadsheet. He'd been tracking everything we found, with estimated values based on sold listings. His face was unreadable. Marcus? Conservatively? The basement alone? Around $8,000. I sat down heavily. You're joking. I'm not joking. The Pyrex set is worth $300. The barware is another $400. That unopened Trivial Pursuit? $200. We almost threw that in the donation pile. I know. We stared at each other, then simultaneously scrambled for our phones. I'm checking the garage, I said. I'm checking the attic, Marcus countered. May the best hoarder win. Chapter 4. The Education of Two Idiots. Selling vintage items online, we quickly discovered, was like joining a very specific cult where everyone had strong opinions about condition ratings and original packaging. No, you cannot list that as excellent condition. A woman named Betsy Vintage 65 informed me via message, complete with an angry emoji. There is a microscopic chip on the rim. That is very good at best. It's the size of a pinhead. I typed back. That's a chip. Chips are damage. Damage affects value. I showed Marcus the message. I think I'm being bullied by a grandmother. I just got told my barware photos look like they were taken by a drunk hamster. He replied. Welcome to the vintage selling community. They're savage. But they were also, weirdly, kind of wonderful. Once you proved you were serious and not trying to scam anyone, people bent over backward to help. We learned about proper keywords, the importance of measurements, how to spot reproductions, and the arcane art of shipping fragile items. My favorite was a woman named Shirley who ran an Etsy shop called Yesterday's Treasures, and seemed to exist solely to help newbies navigate the vintage market. You're doing great, honey, she messaged after I listed the Pyrex bowls. Just remember. Be honest about condition, charge fair prices. And pack like you're shipping eggs wrapped in tissue paper wrapped in your grandmother's wedding dress. Is that a metaphor? I asked. No, that's instructions. Double box everything. Everything. Within a week, we'd made our first sale. The unopened Trivial Pursuit went to a collector in Oregon for $215. We did it. I shouted, startling Marcus from his laptop where he was researching the value of some vintage camping equipment we'd found in the garage. First sale? First sale. I showed him the notification. And she left a review. Perfect condition, fast shipping, great seller. 5 stars. You're glowing. I'm validated. I corrected. Someone wanted our junk and paid real money for it. This is amazing. Marcus grinned. Check this out. He turned his laptop around. Those vintage camping lanterns Grandpa left us? $400 each. We have 3 of them. We have 3 of them, he confirmed. I pulled out my growing list of trip ideas. A spiral notebook that had become my favorite thing in the world. That's enough for flights to Portugal. Add it to the list. Over the next 2 weeks, we fell into a rhythm. Mornings were for excavating new treasures. Afternoons were for research, photography, and listing items. Evenings were for packaging sold items and planning imaginary trips. The Pyrex bowls went to a young couple in Vermont who were furnishing their first home in vintage style. The barware sold as a set to a man in California who was recreating his parents' 1960s basement bar. The vintage board games went to various collectors who messaged us excited stories about childhood memories. This is weird, right? I said one evening, wrapping a McCoy vase in bubble wrap. That this stuff we forgot we had is making people so happy? Not weird, Marcus said. Just wasteful that it's been sitting in our basement. Aunt Dottie would be pleased. Aunt Dottie would roast us for having it in the basement in the first place. He had a point. The breakthrough came when Marcus found the box. Chapter 5. The Treasure. Claire. I rushed downstairs, convinced from Marcus's tone that he'd either discovered buried treasure or uncovered a corpse. Given our basement, either seemed possible. What is it? He was standing in front of an old steamer trunk I'd completely forgotten existed. It had been my grandmother's, shipped to us after she passed away 15 years ago. I vaguely remembered my mother saying something about dealing with it later, and then, apparently, never dealing with it at all. Marcus had the lid open, and his face was pale. Is it bad? I asked. It's. He pulled out a garment carefully, and I gasped. It was a dress. Not just any dress. A stunning, beaded flapper dress in deep midnight blue, complete with fringe and intricate silver embroidery. The beadwork alone must have taken hundreds of hours. Oh my God! I breathed. There's more. He handed me the dress and pulled out another. And another. 6 dresses in total, each more beautiful than the last. Beneath them were accessories. Beaded bags, long gloves, vintage shoes in surprisingly good condition, and a collection of Art Deco jewelry that made my heart race. Grandma Rose, I said softly. These were hers. Marcus pulled out a photo tucked into the trunk's lid pocket. It showed a young woman in one of the dresses, laughing at the camera with the kind of confidence that seemed to leap through time. My grandmother, probably 25 years old, at some glamorous party in the 1920s. She was stunning, Marcus said. She was a flapper, I realized. An actual, honest-to-God flapper. How did I not know this? There was a small journal in the trunk too, leather-bound and slightly musty. I opened it carefully. December 31, 1927. Wore the blue dress to the Rosemont Hotel party. Charlie said I was the cat's meow. Danced until 3 a.m. Mother would have had a conniption, but what she doesn't know won't hurt her. This is my life, and I intend to live it. I read the entry aloud to Marcus, my voice cracking slightly. She was a rebel, he said. She was alive. I flipped through more pages, each entry a window into a vibrant, adventurous woman who seemed determined to experience everything life had to offer. Parties, speakeasies, protests, rallies, trips to New York and Chicago and places I'd never known she'd been. By the time I knew her, she was Grandma Rose who made excellent cookies and fell asleep during Mass. I'd had no idea she'd had this whole other life. "We can't sell these," I said immediately. "I know. We have to." I paused. "Wait, you agree? Claire, these aren't just vintage items. These are family history. These are." He picked up the blue dress again. "These are pieces of your grandmother's soul." I expected to feel relieved, but instead, I felt conflicted. But the whole point is to let go of stuff. The point is to let go of stuff we don't need, to make room for experiences. Marcus corrected. "These dresses are experiences. Your grandmother's experiences. And maybe." He looked thoughtful. "Maybe there's a way to honor that without them sitting in a trunk for another 15 years. An idea was forming. A crazy, impractical, absolutely perfect idea. "What if we wore them?" I said. "What?" "Not every day. But for special occasions. Real occasions. The kind Grandma Rose would have worn them to." Marcus looked at me like I'd suggested we join the circus. Then his expression changed. "You want to wear 1920s flapper dresses to modern events. I want to live in a way that would make Grandma Rose proud. She didn't let these dresses sit in a closet. She wore them. She danced in them. She lived in them. So we keep the dresses." "We keep the dresses," I confirmed. "And we wear them to something amazing. Something worthy of them." "Like what?" I pulled out my phone and started searching. Oh, there's a Great Gatsby-themed charity gala in Chicago next month. Black tie, 1920s encouraged. That's 12 hours away. So? We're supposed to be having experiences, remember? And the dresses need to be seen. Not sold, not stored. Seen. Marcus was quiet for a moment, then he laughed. "Your grandmother would love this, wouldn't she?" "She absolutely would." "Okay," he said. "But I'm not wearing a flapper dress." "Obviously. We'll get you a period-appropriate tuxedo." How much vintage clothing are we about to buy? Think of it as an investment in experience. That's just something people say when they're about to spend too much money. Exactly. Chapter 6. The Sale of the Century. The downsizing deadline was approaching fast, but something had shifted. What started as a desperate attempt to cram our lives into a smaller space had become fun. "We made $3,000 this week," Marcus announced, updating his spreadsheet. "The luggage went for $575, that camping equipment for $1,100. And the rest was various smaller items." I was sorting through a box of vintage Christmas decorations we'd found in the attic. These shiny bright ornaments are going to sell fast. There's a whole market for vintage Christmas. Of course there is. There's a whole market for vintage everything. He paused. "You know what's weird? I'm not even sad about the stuff going." "Me neither. It's like these things want to be used. They want to be loved. And we weren't doing that. We were storing them." "Exactly. But now someone in Minnesota is using Grandpa's camping lanterns on actual camping trips. And that couple in Vermont is serving dinner in the Pyrex bowls. The stuff is living its best life. Marcus grinned. You're anthropomorphizing kitchenware. And you're making spreadsheets about it. We're both weirdos. The selling had taken on a life of its own. We'd created social media accounts for our shop. Marcus insisted it needed to be professional. Joined vintage selling groups, made friends with other sellers, and developed a reputation for honest descriptions and careful packaging. Shirley from Yesterday's Treasures had become a genuine friend, sending us tips and encouragement. We'd even started a running joke about creating a support group for people who accidentally became vintage dealers while downsizing. Speaking of which, Marcus said, I got a message from a guy who wants to buy the entire train case set. Luggage, grooming items, typewriter. Everything. He's offering $800. That's more than the luggage alone was worth. I know. He collects complete vintage travel sets. This is apparently a rare find. I thought about Aunt Dottie's pristine collection, never used, waiting for the perfect trip. Do you think she'd be happy? That someone's going to actually use it? I think Aunt Dottie would be thrilled that we're getting $800 for it, Marcus said practically. And then she'd tell us to use the money for something ridiculous. Like a trip? Like a trip. I pulled out the notebook. Our list had grown. Portugal, Iceland, Scotland, Japan, New Zealand. Each destination funded by boxes of forgotten treasures. You know what I keep thinking about? I said. We spent decades accumulating all this stuff. Buying it, storing it, moving it from room to room, telling ourselves we'd use it someday. And that whole time, we could have been traveling. We could have been living. We were raising kids, Marcus pointed out. That's living. True. But the kids are gone now. And we're sitting on enough vintage junk to fund a year of adventures. Not a full year. Maybe 6 months. You're such a romantic. He closed his laptop and looked at me seriously. Can I tell you something? I'm excited about the condo now. I wasn't before. I was just resigned to it. The sensible thing. But now? Now I'm picturing it as our home base. The place we come back to between trips. Not the place where we store stuff we don't use. And then we can be those annoying people who tell everyone about our travels, I added. We can wear linen clothing and say things like, oh, that reminds me of this little cafe we found in Lisbon. We can become insufferable. Can't wait. Over the next week, items continued to sell. The train case set went to its enthusiastic new owner in Boston. A collection of vintage kitchen textiles went to a restaurant decorator in Nashville. Even the fondue sets. Yes, both of them. Found homes with people who genuinely wanted them. We're down to the last few boxes, Marcus reported. The rest is either going to donation or the condo. How much have we made total? He pulled up his spreadsheet one final time. Final count. $11,347. I sat down heavily. $11,000. Give or take. That's after fees and shipping costs. We had $11,000 worth of stuff in our basement. We had $11,000 worth of stuff we'd completely forgotten about. I opened my notebook, did some quick math. That's 3 major trips. Or 6 smaller ones. Or one amazing, once-in-a-lifetime adventure. Marcus finished. We looked at each other. What are you thinking? I asked. I'm thinking New Zealand. 3 weeks. We do the whole thing. North Island, South Island, maybe even Australia while we're in the hemisphere. That's extravagant. That's the point. When? Next spring. After we're settled in the condo. After we've proven to ourselves that we can actually live with less stuff. I thought about Grandma Rose, dancing until 3 a.m. in her beaded dress. About Aunt Dottie, traveling to 6 countries with her pristine luggage. About all the things we'd accumulated instead of experiences. Let's do it, I said. Yeah? Yeah. But on one condition. What's that? We wear Grandma's dresses to that Chicago gala first. We need a practice adventure. Marcus laughed. Deal. Although I think driving 12 hours to wear vintage clothing to a party definitely qualifies as more than practice. That's the spirit. Chapter 7. The Move. Moving day arrived with the efficiency of a military operation and the emotional weight of a telenovela finale. This is it, Marcus said, surveying our 4-bedroom house one last time. It echoed, empty of the boxes and furniture and accumulated life we'd spent months sorting, selling, and disposing of. Weird, right? I said. I thought I'd be sadder. Me too. The house had been our home for 18 years. We'd brought both kids home from the hospital to this house. Celebrated birthdays, holidays, graduations. Fixed leaky faucets and replaced the roof and repainted the kitchen 3 times because we could never quite get the color right. But now it just felt like a house. A nice house, sure, but just walls and floors and the weird crack in the ceiling that looked like Abraham Lincoln if you squinted. Ready? Marcus asked. I took one last look around, then nodded. Ready. The condo was a revelation. Without all our stuff, it felt spacious. Clean. Purposeful. Every item we'd brought had been chosen deliberately. Furniture we actually used, books we actually read, kitchen equipment we actually cooked with. Where are the throw pillows? Marcus asked, looking at our sofa. We have 2. On the couch. Where pillows belong. And that's enough? Revolutionary, I know. We'd kept the meaningful things. Family photos, Grandma Rose's dresses, a few pieces of furniture we loved. The rest was gone, sold or donated, off living new lives with people who actually wanted it. The guest room closet held our suitcases. Proper, modern suitcases, because we'd actually be using them now. And a carefully curated wardrobe for travel. Marcus's office was small but functional. My reading nook by the window was perfect. This is nice, Marcus admitted, standing in the middle of our new living room. I thought I'd miss the space, but this feels like enough? Yeah. Enough. That night, we ordered pizza and sat on our couch. Just the 2 of us, no kids, no boxes, no piles of vintage items waiting to be researched and sold. So, Marcus said, pulling out his tablet. Should we book New Zealand? I grinned. Absolutely. But first. I pulled up my email. I found the perfect place to stay for the Chicago Gala. A boutique hotel from the 1920s. Complete with a speakeasy bar. Of course it has a speakeasy bar. Grandma Rose would approve. He leaned over to look at the photos. Okay, that's actually amazing. When is it again? 2 weeks. Just enough time to get your tuxedo altered. I still can't believe we're doing this. I can't believe we spent 20 years not doing things like this. We spent the next hour planning. Not just the gala trip, but everything. New Zealand in spring. A food tour through Portugal in the fall. Maybe Iceland for the northern lights in winter. Japan for cherry blossom season. We're going to become those people, Marcus warned. The ones who won't shut up about their travels. I'm counting on it, I replied. We've spent enough time talking about our stuff. Time to talk about our experiences instead. Think the kids will be jealous? I think the kids will be relieved we've finally found a hobby that doesn't involve sending them boxes of things we think they might want. Fair point. Later, as we were getting ready for bed in our new, smaller, perfect bedroom, Marcus said, "You know what the best part is?" "What?" "We could do it all again tomorrow. Decide to move somewhere new, have a different adventure. We're not tied down by stuff anymore." "Are you planning to uproot us again already?" "No, but I could." "That's the point. We're free." I looked around our bedroom. Simple, uncluttered, containing exactly what we needed and nothing more. For the first time in years, I felt light. Free. I agreed. I liked the sound of that. Epilogue. The Gala. The Great Gatsby Gala was ridiculous, extravagant, and absolutely perfect. I wore Grandma Rose's blue dress, the one from the photo. It fit almost perfectly. Apparently, I'd inherited her frame along with her sense of adventure. Marcus looked absurdly handsome in his vintage tuxedo, complete with a pocket watch and fedora. "You look like you walked out of a time machine," I told him as we entered the ballroom. "You look like you belong in a museum," he countered. "The good kind of museum. The exciting kind." The room was full of people in period costume, a jazz band played on stage, and everything sparkled with the kind of over-the-top glamour that made you want to drink champagne and make poor decisions. "What do you think?" I asked, twirling so the fringe spun out. "Would Grandma Rose approve?" "I think Grandma Rose would tell you to stop talking and start dancing." So we did. We danced until my feet hurt in the vintage shoes. We drank champagne. Too much champagne. We bid on silent auction items for charity. We met other people in vintage clothing who shared their own stories of family heirlooms and downsizing discoveries. At midnight, the band played Rhapsody in Blue, and Marcus pulled me onto the balcony overlooking the Chicago skyline. "Happy?" he asked. Deliriously. "No regrets about the house? The stuff?" I thought about it honestly. Not even a little. You know what I regret? That it took us this long to figure it out. Figure what out? That the stuff was never the point. The memories, the experiences, the people. That's what matters. Grandma Rose knew it. Aunt Dottie knew it. And now we know it too. Marcus kissed me, tasting like champagne and possibility. So, next spring. New Zealand. New Zealand, I confirmed. And then wherever else we want to go. No collecting souvenirs. Well, maybe a few. Claire, small ones. Meaningful ones. Things that will fit in our smaller, perfect condo. He laughed. Okay, fine. Small, meaningful souvenirs only. Below us, the city sparkled. Ahead of us, adventures waited. Behind us, a house full of forgotten treasures had been transformed into a future full of possibilities. I thought about the fondue set, hopefully being used by its new owner. About the Pyrex bowls serving family dinners. About the luggage set, finally traveling the world. About all the items that had sat in our basement, waiting for their stories to continue. You know what? I said. I think we should start a blog. About what? About this. Downsizing, selling vintage items, funding adventures. Other people might want to know how to do it. Other people might think we're insane. Other people might be sitting in houses full of stuff they don't use, dreaming about the trips they're not taking. Marcus considered this. We could call it, the Great Unboxing. Perfect. We'll write about the Pyrex bowls, the fondue sets, the camping lanterns. The midnight blue dress and the Chicago Gala and the two idiots who learned to let go. Exactly. The band struck up another song, and we headed back inside to dance some more. The dress swirled around me like water, like time, like all the adventures Grandma Rose had, and all the ones we had waiting ahead of us. We'd spent decades collecting things. Now we were going to collect experiences instead. And honestly, it was the best trade we'd ever made. Later that night, in our hotel room, I found a note tucked into the blue dress's pocket. Grandma Rose's handwriting, faded but legible. Life is too short for half measures. Dance more. Worry less. The stuff will still be there tomorrow. The moment won't be. I showed it to Marcus. She really was something, he said. She really was. Think we're doing her proud? I looked at the dress, draped carefully over the chair. At Marcus in his vintage tuxedo. At the tickets for New Zealand already pulled up on our phones. At our whole new, lighter, freer life stretching out ahead of us. Yeah, I said. I think we are.